And so it started out as a Bible study that eventually blossomed and became what it is today, the book, The Climb. And it's a book that contains a series of practical lessons for today's leader. That's the subtitle to it. And it's 10 chapters of stories that come from my journey as a leader. I started my leadership journey when I was just a teenager, 16, 17 years old, where I was thrusted into leadership of a small motley crew of young people in New York City on the Lower East Side back in the mid 80s. And so the book takes us, or the reader, through my journey in concert with the journey of key characters that we know from the Bible, like Joseph, Moses, and Abraham, and other key characters. And we look at the comparison of my journey to their journey, what the Bible says, as well as how this may apply to you. The first chapter, for example, is called 421. And it's based on Abraham's journey. And in this chapter, I take the reader through the idea of God's work in the individual leader as he or she climbs to the summit of their purpose and call. And if we read the story of Abraham when he was called by God to sacrifice Isaac, we see that it started with 4 men. It was Abraham, Isaac, and 2 servants. At a midpoint, it became 2 men, just Abraham and Isaac. And then at the end, it was just Abraham dealing with God as he confronted the reality of sacrificing his son. In each one of these stages, there's a very unique work that God is doing in the people that he's interacting with, specifically this leader. And what I've learned through this is that what happens in stage 4 with the 4 cannot happen in stage 2. Neither can stage 2 happen in stage 1. We have to allow the process to take place. We need to surrender to it and grow with it. And when we do that, we benefit. And then when we return to the people that we're serving and leading, they benefit from what's happening in us. So it is a very practical book. At the end of each chapter, I have some probing questions that I ask the reader. And the goal there is to take the reader through these stories and then get them to stop and reflect on, what did God just say to you? What did you learn from this chapter? And what steps are you willing to take to grow in this area? And one of the things that I say here is that I want this book to become a tool. See, in my consulting work, everything that I do, I believe in theory, I believe in research and ideas, but I always, when I sit with a client or teach a seminar workshop, my goal is always to see the individual or the group walk away that same day with a set of tools that they can employ that day. Not just some theory, but things that they can use today to grow. And I take that concept into the book so that at the end of each chapter, you have now been equipped to do something in your life that'll benefit others as well. So I'm excited about the book. There's a series of chapters. There's another chapter that I call Con Games, the lies we believe as leaders and the traps we fall into. Pit maneuvers. When you fall into a trap, how do you maneuver in and through and eventually out of that pit so that you can succeed as a leader and achieve what God has for you? And these lessons apply to both ministers and ministry leaders, as well as local business leaders. These are concepts and ideas that help you grow as an individual so that then you can execute in excellence. So I'm excited about the book. The goal is to have it released by the end of the summer, beginning of fall. And I think it's going to be a great tool in the hands of many. My hope and my dream is that this book travels with leaders as they make their notes, as they take their time to journal. They put dates on it and revisit it year after year after year and see how they've grown. And areas where they haven't grown, they can then continue to challenge themselves.